Mr. Abhi Kuruvella and Mr. Vijay Patil. I'd also like to thank Mr. Makran sir. I'd also like to thank my parents for making time to be here today. I'd also like to thank all my friends who've come, to name Udit, Shemal, my editor, and my soulmate, Chetan, and Ambika, and also Sonali Anthony. Thank you all, and Arjun of course. Thank you all for being here. So you all must be wondering at this point what this is all about. What is when God pulls the googly? And who is this Ashwath Aiyappa? He's unheard of, he's unseen, and why are all of us made to gather here to listen to him? Well, quite honestly, I don't know as well. Perhaps means that I have something to say, a rather important message to convey. So without further ado, I'll start. I grew up having dreams of representing my country in cricket. And this dream was not unique in any way. The cricketing population of this country runs into millions and millions. And in the batch under 16, I represented Karnataka at the under 16 level, and from that batch of players who played for Karnataka, only 2 have gone on to represent the country, and that's Stuart Binney and Vinay Kumar, and not for long durations both. Which means technically constitutes about 0.0001% of the total cricketing population of this country. And most books out there capture successful stories because people quite honestly don't want to even pursue an alternate idea of success, and they love to listen to the conventional success story which is centered around wealth, and fame and name, which are the standard measures that society has for success. So this book attempts to capture the other side of the story, and I'm exhibit A of that side, because day in and day out for the longest time I nursed feelings of lack of not being good enough because I had not achieved what I set out to achieve, and I looked at myself as a failure for the longest time. And the psychological turmoils and hurricanes that come associated with having to live that way, I was basically languishing in cricketing hell. And this book is my account of how I was able to free myself of that obsession. And hence it speaks about spiritual intelligence as a solution. Now, I request for an open mind, for an unprejudiced mind. Don't accept what I'm going to say, but don't reject it as well. Try and listen with an open mind to what I say, because now even Harvard University has accepted 5 intelligences as being necessary, essential for whole brain development. Cognitive intelligence, which we get a whole load of in modern education. Emotional intelligence. Spiritual intelligence, which I think is not so much a part of mainstream tutelage. The other 2 are moral intelligence and social intelligence. These 5, they say, are necessary, and spiritual intelligence is there, and I don't think there is any other country in the world which is more well versed with spiritual intelligence than ours. The West are only now recognizing it. We live in a society which is largely result oriented, judges you on the basis of reward. This is exactly what happened to my cricket. When I first picked up the bat in Lovedale, I studied in this beautiful school called Lawrence in Ooty. And when I first picked up the bat, it was out of happiness, it was out of joy. And the very prospect of playing the game would have me excited, happy. The very prospect, it was not linked to scoring 100 or it was not linked to taking a catch. The very prospect of playing the game caused immense joy in me. I played out of happiness, not for happiness. And playing in that fashion, I did well. I scored runs, and then people started to tell me that I have the talent. And then ambition entered the picture. And the combination of talent and ambition can be a heady one. And as a result of wealth being linked to status, and irrespective of our backgrounds, at some stage in our life we meet with this condition where we're told that money is important above all else. There are very few who are not subject to this condition. Ever since Aristotle said man is a rational animal, people started measuring intelligence on the basis of IQ. It was not until the 1990s where two psychologists came along, Salovey and Mayer, who first floated the idea of emotional intelligence, which became later known as EQ. It was a concept popularized by Daniel Goleman. And he said the best use of IQ, the most appropriate use of IQ is if you blend it with emotion. He said thoughts and emotions must work together with each other and not at cross purposes. Then in the early 2000s, it was the first time the latest Q on the block, which is spiritual intelligence, SQ. So to sum up, if IQ is about thinking, and if EQ is about feeling and emotion, then SQ or spiritual intelligence is about being in the moment, being in the present, which I think is nothing more than being happy, knowing how to be happy. And while I think there's a lot of cognitive intelligence in mainstream education, I think there is a lack of spiritual training, there is a lack of emotional training, and there is a lack of moral let's stick to emotional training and spiritual training. I think there's a lack of these two things. My book deals extensively with that. Knowing how to be happy, understanding the science behind the present moment, and what are the various factors in society that keep us away from being able to access the present. And of course, I was introduced to all this. The vehicle that introduced me to all of this that I'm speaking to you about now was cricket. Like I mentioned earlier, I grew up wanting to play cricket for this country. I was obsessed with the game. Love became passion, and then the passion slowly became an obsession, and I don't think there's much of a difference anyway. I became obsessed. My self-worth, my identity, and everything was linked to being a cricketer. Being the cricketer I was that played under 16 state, and it was also identified with this cricketer that I aspired to become at some stage in my life. And I struggled a long time, I grappled. I could not look at myself in any other way. And parallelly, my cricket career was going nowhere. And what I thought was my strength, what was encouraged by coaches, you must have passion, you must be obsessed with the game to do well. All this advice was the very reason I had become deeply conditioned, and I was caught in this crude, one-dimensional system of thought, and it refused. I was operating within that pattern, and with that same mind, I was trying to score big runs and progress in my career. And that's why a statement of Einstein again comes to mind. He said, you cannot solve problems with the same thinking that caused it. And that was the time I met a man, my spiritual teacher. His name is Mumtaz Ali, also known as Sri M. He brought about a change in the way I look at things.
Ladies and gentlemen,